Hello, ladies and gentlemen, this is Runes. Now, today we'll be doing Magic Gathering Top 10 Lost Cards. So, now, at number 10, we're going to be starting off with Scholar of the Lost Trove. It's from Jumpstart. It's a rare with an average price of 22 cents on the market. This one costs 7 mana for this 5/5 flyer, but when it enters the battlefield, you may cast a target instant, sorcery, or item card from your graveyard without paying its mana cost. Well, if we put you in your graveyard this turn, exile it. So that's really kind of cool. But this is a very expensive card. 7 mana. That's the reason why it's at number 10. It's just not very powerful, though I do love that Sphinx picture. Now, at number 9, it is Journey to the Lost City from Commander Legends Battle for Baldur's Gate. It's a rare with an average price, yes, a whopping 13 cents on the market. So it says at the beginning of your upkeep, exile the top 4 cards of your library, then roll a d20. It does cost 4 mana. I do like the artwork for this one as well. I don't think it's very effective even in a commander deck, milling 4 cards just for those targeted abilities. This is why it's at number 9. It's just not that very impressive. So let's move on to number 8. We have Lost Lenin. It's from New Phyrexian. It's a common and going for an average price of 18 cents on the market, which is very impressive for a common. There's not much more to say about this. It has Infect. That's why it's very impressive. Though it is at number 8, I think Infect is a really cool ability, which doesn't really exist nowadays, or at the time of this video. And it's a 2/1. So yeah, you play cat and mouse, I guess, with this ability with the power and defense, and you can figure it out. So let's move on to number 7. We have Lost Order of Jarkald. It's an Ice Age. It's a rare, believe it or not, for 34 cents. Costs 4 mana, which is very expensive considering nowadays. When it enters the battlefield, it has the power and toughness of each equal to 1 plus the number of target creatures opponent controls. So this can really backfire if you don't want those creatures to die. So maybe you can like give them Pathicism, or just somehow give this creature unblockable and gain life so your opponent can still have creatures. Other than that, it's not that great. For 4 mana, it's just there's so much you can do in the Magic world. So let's move on to number 6. We have Lost Legacy from Kaladesh. It's a rare, going for, well, just 18 cents on the market at the time of this video. And I actually am very impressed with the color of this card for black mana because it says name a non-artifact, non-land card. Search the target's player graveyard, hand, and library for any number of those cards with the same name. And exile. That player shuffles his or her library, then draws a card for each card exiled this way. 3 mana. Typically, this is kind of like a blue card. That's why I think it's very impressive. Overall, in Magic, it's not, but when it comes to Lost cards, this is actually pretty good. But let's move on to halfway down our list to number 5. Well, we got Sinks of the Lost Truths from Zendikar. It's a rare, and that's right, 24 cents at the time of this video. And as you know, most of these Lost cards are not expensive at all. It might be just like an uncommon price. And it already costs 5 mana for this 3/5 flyer. And when it has a kicker, it says. When it enters the battlefield, draw 3 cards. Then, if it wasn't kicked, discard 3 cards. So, you're paying for what? 7 mana for a 3/5 flyer to draw cards? Maybe that's impressive, but I just don't think it is. So let's move on to number 4. Well, I'm not sure how to pronounce it. The Lost Item. I don't know. I'm sorry. It's from various sets. It's a rare, going for an average price of 39 cents market. So it's going up. Cost 2 for this 1/1. When it enters the battlefield, draw a card. If it entered from your library or was cast from your library, draw 2 cards instead. And when it becomes a target of a spell or a shuffle into its owner's library, so that you can keep it alive over and over again. It is a legendary creature, which is very helpful, that you only have 1 in play for the opponent. But it is a very useful card, I believe. Let's move on to number 3. Next on the list is Sovereigns of the Lost Alara from Ultimate Masters or Alara Reborn. It's rare. That's right, $1.90. We're getting to those expensive. It does have Exalted, so that's very cool for this 6/4/5. Surprisingly, it does not have flying, even though the picture is clouds, basically. Whenever a creature you control attacks alone, you may search your library for an aura card that could enchant that creature, put it into play attached to that creature, then shuffle your library. And this isn't a legendary creature, so you can somehow get maybe 4 of these in play. and have those aura cards in your deck, this is pretty much game over. So it's a really cool card, though it is expensive. So let's move on to number 2. It's Well of Lost Dreams. From various sets, it's a rare, going for a whopping $2.55 on the market at the time of this video. And I actually use this card in real decks, so this card is very impressive. It does cost 4 mana. Whenever you gain life, you may pay X, where X is less or equal to the amount of life you gain. If you do, draw X cards. So that's pretty impressive. It costs 4 mana only to bring out this very powerful card. Once you get this play and you're able to pay it, just keep drawing cards. This is just a really cool card. Really cool picture by Jeff. So some say knowledge lost during the ritual of revoking is returned through the waters. So let's move on to number 1. And that's right, we got Azusa, the Lost But Seeking from various sets. It's a rare, going for almost $10 on the market. Very cool card, and it's very self-explanatory. 3 mana for this one too. It says you may play 2 additional lands on each of your turns. Well, there's not much more to say that. There's so many land decks you can build with this around, or even do a multicolor deck or anything. This is just such a powerful card. Good thing it's legendary, because I can't imagine having more than one in play. So I hope you guys enjoy the top 10 video, and I hope you guys have a good day and a good evening. Hello ladies and gentlemen, this is RuneSnow, and today I will be going over Magic the Gathering top 10 Shepherd cards. And now, at number 10. With the first being on our list is Soul Shepherd from Weatherlight. It's common, going for only 4 cents on the market. Well, it's pretty simple. It says remove a creature card in your graveyard from the game, gain 1 life. So there's no tapping ability, but it is a creature. It's not an enchantment, so definitely a drawback, and that's why it's at number 10. On top of that, it costs 2 mana to put into play. So let's move on to number 9. We have Shepherd of the Cosmos from Kaldheim. It's an uncommon for only a whopping 9 cents on the market. Well, it costs 6 mana for this 3/3 flying, but at least it's an angel, so there are creatures that can pump it up. It says when it enters the battlefield, you may return target permanent card with a current mana cost of 2 or less from your graveyard. Or it does have Foretell, which can be a factor. This is why it's at number 9. Has a lot of abilities, but just, I don't know how this is an uncommon. It should be a common. So let's move on to number 8. We have Owlbear Shepherd from Commander Legends of Battle for Baldur's Gate. It's an uncommon, going for 33 cents on the market at the time of this video. And this card is more like a wall than anything else, because it costs 3 mana for this 1/4. But it does have that ability. You can draw cards if you have a power or 8 or greater with a total power. So that could be everything. And with green, that's kind of pretty easy. So I can see why this would be uncommon. So let's move on to number 7. Which we have is Foul Shepherd from Commander 2013. It's a rare, going for just 24 cents on the market. That's not a lot. So it does have its good and its bad. That's why it's at number 7, is because, well, it costs 8 mana for an 8/6, which is pretty standard for high-power creatures. But it does say when you may return to your hand all creature cards that were put into your graveyard from the battlefield this turn if it deals combat damage to a player, so not even a planeswalker. And it says sacrifice a creature. Another creature, target creature gets -2/-2 until end of turn. So at least it has that ability, so then you can kill his creatures, bring those creatures back, and just kind of repeat the cycle over and over again, especially when it only costs 1 swamp, which is impressive. So let's move on to number 6. Which we have is just Twilight Shepherd. It's from various sets. It's a rare, going for 68 cents on the market at the time of this video. And I'm actually quite impressed with it because, as you guys know, I'm a fan of the white. It costs 6 mana for this 5/5 flying and vigilance, which I would like to play with in general. But when it comes into play, return to your hand all cards in your graveyard put there from play this turn. So it's kind of like the other card, but this one has persist. So this is why it's at number 6. And it's basically how you want to play it. So let's move on to number 5. So halfway down our list, we have Shepherd of Rot, either from Onslaught or Plane Chase. It's a common, going for the sets accordingly, 61 cents or 381 on the market. Now this one is going to be really fun, especially if you can gain life in your deck, so maybe a white-black deck. And it says each player loses 1 life for each zombie in play. So you can have so much fun with this, and it only costs 2 mana for this one. So again, as I just said, you can play around with this and have the opponent get attacked, lose life, and then play this, tap it, and lose even more life. It's nice, interesting combos you can do with that. So let's move on to number 4. We have another angel card from Emeria Shepherd. It's from Battle for Zendikar or Zendikar Rising Commander. It's a rare going for $1.46 on the market. Oh, it's getting up here. So it costs 7 mana for this 4/4 flying, and as you guys know, Landfall is one of my favorite abilities in Magic. It says whenever a land enters the battlefield under control, you may return target non-land permanent card from your graveyard to your hand. If that land is a plains, you may return that non-land permanent card to the battlefield instead. So you can really have fun with that. But at this point, when you don't need that extra land, typically when you have 7 mana to play this angel, so it would be another non-land permanent most likely. So it does do graveyard retrieval for white, so it has nothing to do with blue or black. So I really like that. This is why it's at number 4, of its uniqueness to the color of white having this ability. So let's move on to number 3. We have Nightmare Shepherd from Theros Beyond Death. It's a rare going for $1.48 on the market at the time of this video. And this 4/4 flying only costs 4 mana, so that's very impressive in and itself. But guess what? Whenever another non-token creature you control dies, you may exile. If you do, create a token of that's a copy on that creature, except that it's 1/1 and it's a nightmare in addition to its other types. So sacrificing creatures and then bring them back from the graveyard, and even though they're 1/1s with those abilities, you can have so much fun with this card, which was actually quite standard at the time. A lot of people played with it. So let's move on to number 2. At number 2, we have Mycoid Shepherd from Alara Reborn or Magic 2020 promo. It's a rare for 25 cents for Alara or the 10.49 from Magic 2020. The reason why I have this is, again, it has cost 4 mana for a 5/4, so I think that's pretty good. And then it has just whenever or another creature you control with a power of 5 or greater is put into the graveyard from play, you may gain 5 life. So that's really cool because it's not legendary, so you can have 4 of those in play. It's just kind of like a way of gaining life non-stop, and it does fit in with the color combination because green gives the powerhouse to creatures while white gains life. So I really think that this should be at number 2 because of that ability. Power 5, you can definitely bring those cards into play. You can definitely have fun with this card, and I really like it. So let's move on to number 1. And at number 1, we have this absolutely amazing card. It is Allosaurus Shepherd from Jumpstart. It's a mythic going for $47.93 on the market. I think this is actually the most expensive card you can get from Jumpstart. Don't quote me 100% on that. And I absolutely love this card. It really destroys blue. It costs 1 for a 1/1, so that's okay, fine. But it can't be countered. Green spells you control can't be countered. Like, oh my god. And then on top of that, it costs 6 mana. Until end of turn, each elf creature you control has a base power, tosses a 5/5, becomes a dinosaur in addition to its other types. You put this in an elf deck, oh my god, just like, you can destroy everything. This is actually playable. It's not only in the top 10 Shepherd, it could be in the top 10 of whatever. This card is absolutely amazing. I won't go on and on about it, how I think it's amazing. So I hope you guys have a good day and a good evening. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, this is RuneSnow, and today we'll be going over Magic the Gathering Top 10 Spellbomb, and now at number 10. So I thought I'd start off with Life Spark Spellbomb. It's from Mirrodin, and it's common going for an average price of 8 cents. And just to let you know, Spellbombs aren't very expensive in the whole Magic world. I just thought it was very unique to do the top 10 Spellbomb because I didn't think there was that many. So this one costs 1. Pay a 4, sacrifice it. Until end of turn, target land becomes a 3/3 creature. It is still land. Sacrifice it or draw a card. So nothing too special, which will happen with a lot of these Spellbomb cards. And now, at number 9. We have Flight Spellbomb from Scars of Mirrodin. It's uncommon with an average price of 9 cents. Well, it costs 1. Sacrifice it. Target creature gains flying until end of turn. And when it is put in the graveyard from battlefield, you may pay a island. If you do, draw a card. Now, at number 8. Next on our list is Panic Spellbomb. It's from various sets being common with an average price of 11 cents, so we're moving up from the 7 cents. This one says the target creature can't block, but if you pay the amount, you draw a card. And at number 7, we got Origin Spellbomb from Scores of Mirrodin. It's a common with an average price of 12 cents. This one is 1 color, where it say pay 1, sacrifice it, put a 1/1 colorless mirror artifact creature token onto the battlefield, which is, I think, more versatile than the last 3 you've seen. This one, obviously, like the other ones, pay a planes, and if you do, draw a card. So now, at number 6, we have Horizon Spellbomb from Scarabs and Mirrodon with a common, and an average price of 12 cents. So definitely repeat, but this one says pay 2, search your library for a basic land card, reveal it, and put it in your hand. You pay a forest, and you may draw a card. So we're going through all the basic manas and all the magic world. And at number 5, we have Pyrite Spellbomb from various sets, common with an average price of 19 cents. That's right. Like any other one, this one says pay a mountain, sacrifice it, deals 2 damage to any target. Pay 1 colorless, draw a card. So it does have a bit of more versatile than the other ones you've seen on the top 10. But really, any target, that's at least something. That's why it's at number 5. So let's move on to number 4. We got Necrogent Spellbomb from Mirrodon, a common with an average price of 15 cents. So you can see this is their kind of theme from this series as well, Spellbombs. And they really haven't reprinted much other than Pirate, like that's a pretty big one. So this one says target player discards a card from his or her hand, costs 1 and then 1. I think that's actually quite pretty good. So you can bring that out first turn, and then you can play like any kind of discard card for the second turn. Otherwise, you can sacrifice it and draw a card. So now, at number 3. So we're going to do, well, Sunbeam Spellbomb from the average price of 18 cents on the market. And, of course, from Mirrodon and Common, typical. Pay 1. So this one actually is, you sacrifice it, you gain 5 life. And then this one sticks with the theme of just paying 1 colors to draw a card. So that's really cool. So let's move on to number 2. We have Aether Spellbomb from various sets, being common with an average price of 25 cents. This one, it costs only 1 to return target creature to its owner's hand, sacrifice it to draw a card. So that's very good and unique because this one's almost actually playable, even though I'd rather waste money on something else, even with like Fading Hope, it only costs 1. So let's move on to number 1, which is Nihil Spellbomb from various sets, being common with an average price of 54 cents. Wow, can you believe that? Costs 1 like anything else, but then it says exile cards from target player's graveyard. So it's not all players, but specific. So this one's actually kind of cool, and it doesn't cost anything. You just tap it. When it is put into the graveyard, the battlefield, you may pay a swamp. If you do, draw a card. So out of every other Spellbomb in the entire series, this one is free. Again, I thought this was a unique, so it's not the most exciting of all the Spellbombs. But again, I just thought I'd give it a try because I never knew there was this many Spellbombs in the Magic world. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video and have a good day and a good evening. Hello ladies and gentlemen, this is RuneSnow, and today we'll be doing Magic the Gathering top 10 Sprite cards. Not fairies, but sprites. And now, at number 10. We're going to start our list with Sea Sprite from Homelands. It's an uncommon, going for just a whopping 16 cents on the market. And this one is at number 10 as well because it's pretty expensive. It costs 2 mana for a 1/1 flying protection from red. So at least it has flying, but protection from red, oh well then, as you can predict, it would only be helpful really if you're playing against a red deck. If you are, it's pretty gold. If not, well, you got some problems. Now at number 9. Which is actually one of the more expensive sprites, I would say, is Fire Sprite. It's from Legends. It's a common going just for 64 cents on the time of this video. And while it's only expensive, it's because it's old school, because right nowadays I would not play this card in any time. It costs 2 mana for this 1/1. As you can see, it has flying, which is typical for any type of sprite, but it costs 1 force to tap to add a red to your mana pool. This ability is played as an interrupt, which of course interrupts don't exist anymore. So again, if you're really desperate for that mountain, you only see why this card would be good, and why it's at number 9 as well. It does have that mana abilities other than the protection from red, so it just gives it that 1 up. So let's move on to number 8. We have Cloud Sprite from various sets, being common, and well, 12 cents on the market. And it's basically a really cool common. I like the Mercadian Masks one, so I really gotta put that one up. But anyway, 1 for a 1/1 flyer. Cloud may only block creatures with flying. So 1 for a 1/1 flyer, that's a pretty good deal. That's why I put it at this spot, because that's better than 1 with the non-flying. So let's move on to number 7. At number 7 is basically the same card as Zephyr Sprite from Magic 2010. It's a common going just for 9 cents on the market at the time of this video. 1 for a 1/1 flyer. Nothing more to explain other than like the previous one where it said it can only block creatures with flying. This can, so that's it. Cool picture. I like the saying though. I've never understood why so many beings lumber around on the ground. There are 3 dimensions, yet they use only 2. So let's move on to number 6, which is actually one of my favorite sprites. It's Surveilling Sprite. It's from Ravnica, City of Guilds, or Dual Decks in Jania versus Nicole Bolas. It's a common going just for 16 cents on the market for a common. It's actually pretty good. So 2 mana for a 1/1 flyer. Pretty typical for a sprite. But it says when it is put into a graveyard from play, you may draw a card. And I am a fan of those drawing additional cards, as I keep saying in all these top 10 legendary videos. So let's move halfway down the list to number 5. We have Hypnotic Sprite from Throne of Eldraine. It's an uncommon, go for 16 cents on the market. And I actually used this quite a bit when it was standard. 2 mana for a 2/1 flyer. Very awesome. But it does cost 3 mana, so it has like 2 abilities in this card, which I was very impressed with. Counter target spell with a converted mana cost of 3 or less for 3 mana. Borderline, this is why it's halfway down our list. So let's move on to number 4. We actually have Inspired Sprite from Morning Tide. It's an uncommon for 18 cents on the market, so it's even less expensive than some of the common cards on this list. And this is actually one of my favorite pictures of all the Sprite cards. Has flash, and as you guys know, I'm a big fan of flash as well. 4 mana for a 2/2 flyer because it's a flash, but whenever you play a wizard spell, you may untap Inspired Sprite. And to tap it, draw a card, then discard a card. So it has very multiple abilities. It does have a lot of backfiring because by the time you want to play 4 mana, I assume you won't want to play the Sprite card unless you're doing a Sprite deck. So let's move on to number 3. We have Sprite Noble from Eternal Masters or Time Spiral, therefore being uncommon or rare as time has gone by. So it's 42 cents currently on the market for the average price. And this one is actually very impressive. Costs 3 mana for a 2/2 flyer. Other creatures controlled with flying get +1 defense. Other creatures controlled with flying get +1/+0 until end of turn if you tap it. So it's very versatile, and you really want to build a deck. Again, I said in the previous card, if you want to build a Sprite deck, this would be a card you would have to put in 100%. So let's move on to number 2. We have Sprite Dragon from various sets being uncommon with an average price of just under $2. And this one is very cool. If you can somehow keep this card into play, it is actually very playable in the real Magic world. This Sprite Dragon only costs an island and a mountain for a 1/1. Flying and haste. Really cool. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, put a 1/1/1 counter on Sprite Dragon. So if you can keep that, it's pretty much game over. But there's only one better card than this. The best Sprite of them all. So now, at number 1. So we got Spell Stutter Sprite from Modern Masters, or it could be rare, Secret Lair drop, but it is a common, so with an average price of $3.27. And yes, it is a fairy wizard, but I went by the name, so it is a Sprite fairy wizard with flash flying, and when it enters the battlefield, counter target spell with a converted mana cost of X or less, where X is the number of fairies you control. So you can make a Sprite fairy deck, and this is very powerful because no one will expect a Sprite to have a counter in it. That's just awesome. That's why I put it at number 1. You can just counter something and no one would expect that. So I hope you guys enjoyed the top 10, and I hope you have a good day and a good evening. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Rune Snow, and here we are ready to discover the Magic the Gathering top 10 thirst cards in all of Magic. And now, at number 10. At number 10, we have Unquenchable Thirst from Hour of Devastation. It's a common, going for a whopping 1 cent at the market at this time. So the reason why it's at number 10 is because I wanted to have 10 cards for this Thirst video. That's the only reason why it's here. Basically, it says Enchant Creature. When it enters the battle, if you control a desert, or there is a desert card in your graveyard, tap Enchanted Creature. Enchanted Creature doesn't untap. So again, basically, you're limited to only a few sets where there's desert cards. Unless you're going back to Arabian Nights. I don't know. Now let's move on to number 9. So at number 9, you can see is Thirst for Meaning. It's from Theros Beyond Death. It's a common going for about 28 cents in the market. The next few cards are going to be kind of like this style. I like this one because it's an instant. It costs 3 mana, unfortunately. It says draw 3 cards and discard 2 cards unless you discard an enchantment card. Which I don't know. I'm not a fan of enchantment cards being thrown into the graveyard. So this is why it's at number 9, because I'm not a fan of just, like I said, getting rid of enchantments. So let's just move on to number 8. which is Thirst for Knowledge. It's from various sets. It's common, going for about 12 cents on the market, and it's essentially the same card as Thirst for Meaning, except for this is discard an artifact card. I like the picture, and it says, to truly know something, you must become it. The trick is not to lose yourself in the process. So that's kind of cool with the picture and that saying. Other than that, it's basically the same as the number 9 card. So let's just straight up move on to number 7. Which we have is Bloodthirsty Aurelius from Commander 2021 or Core 2020. It's an uncommon going for roughly 24 cents on the market. So this vampire rogue is actually really cool. It says whenever you gain life, put a +1/+1 counter on it. And when it was in standard at the time, this was probably one of the most popular cards that were played because there was a lot of gain life and, well, it's a flying creature, so it can't be too bad. So let's just straight up, again, like I said, move on to number 6, which is Curse of Thirst. It's from Dark Ascension, or as you believe it or not, a really random thing, Wizards Play Network 2012. It's an uncommon or rare, depending on which one it is, 36 cents for the dark, and then 381 for the Wizards Play Network. Basically, this card costs 5 mana to play. It says Enchant Player, which I think those kind of cards are actually really cool because you don't see it there very often. But anyway, it says, at the beginning of Enchanted Player's upkeep, Curse of Thirst deals damage to that player equal to the number of curses attached to him or her. So it's kind of annoying, but at 5 mana, it's not very powerful. I feel like it should be at least 3 mana. That's my opinion. So let's just move on to number 5. Which is Necromantic Thirst. Halfway down our list from various sets. It's common for a whopping 9 cents on the market right now. It costs 4 mana, says Enchant Creature. Whenever enchanted creature deals combat damage to a player, you may return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. So it's kind of actually not too bad if you're playing Vintage maybe, because you can basically make cards discarded into your graveyard and therefore bringing them back. And it says enchanted creature, so it could be your creature or the opponent's creature. So it can actually work to your advantage on how many you want to play. Well, 4 maximum. So let's move on to number 4. At number 4, we got Eternal Thirst from various sets. It's a common going for 16 cents in the market at the time of this video. And if you noticed, a lot of these Thirst cards are in various sets. I never done a top 10 video with so many various sets from cards, so I guess Thirst is a very popular card. This one is cost 2 mana. It says Enchant Creature. Enchanted creature has lifelink, and whenever the creature an opponent controls dies, put a +1/+1 counter on it. And because of that, well, black has a lot of creature destruction, so this can be very helpful. Man, if that creature has flying, which like it does in the picture, this card is actually pretty powerful, and I'm surprised it's not an uncommon. So let's just move on to number 3. At number 3, we have Thirsting Bloodlord from Core Set 2020. It's in a common going for $2.89 at the market at the time of this video. Well, because, well, if you look at the card, it costs 4 mana for this 3/3, and it says other vampires you control get +1/+1. So it's not legendary, so you can have actually 4 of those in play, and it's pretty new, so you can still have it in a current deck, which is very cool. Not standard, but again, it can really help. And in general, that's really cool because vampires are really popular, and at the time of this video, Innistrad became popular in the new standard set. So let's move on to number 2, which is Sorin's Thirst. You guys may not agree with me, but this is actually one of my top favorite cards of like in all the Magic world. It's from various sets. It's common going for 10 cents. And basically, it's straight up easy. It's just for 2 mana, it's an instant, which actually makes the biggest difference in the world. It says 2 damage to target creature, and you gain 2 life. It could target your creature, any creature, but I just like that. It's because it's so simple. You gain 2 life for just 2 mana. It's only at number 2 because I personally like the card. I probably would put this at number 4 or 5 if in a general sense, but this is a personal touch. So let's just move on to the best Thirst card at number 1, which is Bloodchief's Thirst from Zendikar Rising, an uncommon going for 52 cents on the market, which I think at the time of this video, it is in standard. So when it gets kicked out of standard, it's going to drop fast. I really like this card, even though unfortunately it is a sorcery. It costs 1 mana. It says destroy target creature or planeswalker with a current mana cost 2 or less. If the spell was kicked, instead destroy target creature or planeswalker. So it's kind of like a 2-in-1. This is why it's at number 1. I really like that ability, though the kicker is more expensive if you had another card, but it gives you the option. This is why I really, really like this Thirst card. It actually is not just number 1 in the top 10 thirst. This is actually generally a great card to play. And this is all. This is the top 10 thirst, and I hope you guys have a good day and a good evening.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, this is Rune. So we're going to be doing Magic the Gathering Top 10 Tome. So we'll begin seeing which ones are the best. Now, at number 10. So at number 10, we got Urza's Tome from Dominaria set, which is an uncommon, roughly going for about 8 cents on the current market. Well, Urza's Tome has got 2 colors, where it says, for 3 colors, tap it, draw a card, then discard a card unless you exile a historic card from your graveyard. Artifacts, legendaries, and sagas are historic. This isn't very impressive because basically you got to discard a card, and if you're going to exile a stored card from your graveyard, chances are you're not going to do that with the amount of artifacts and legendaries you want. So this is why it's at number 10. It's not the best at all, but at least you're able to draw a card. And now at number 9, which we have MSC Tome. It's from various sets, which is uncommon, going for roughly 25 cents at the market at the time of this video. I like the picture. For 4 colors, it says 5, draw 2 cards, and discard a card. The reason why it's at number 9 is, well, you still have to discard, but at least you can draw 2 cards every time, which costs 5. So basically you're spending 9 mana to get that 2 card advantage. I feel like there's a lot more things you can do, but this is for the number 9 for the tomes. And now, at number 8, which we have JMD Tome. It's from various sets, which could be rare or uncommon. But based on the rarity, it doesn't matter because it's still going roughly for 30 cents on the market. Right now, as you can see, it costs 4 colors, and 4 colors to draw a card, which is a really cool ability. So you're always drawing cards regardless of the discarding card or anything. So by turn 8, well, if you have nothing in your hand, then this card is excellent because you're always drawing cards. But for 4 mana, you might be wanting to play something else. This is the reason why it's at number 8. It has that inability to stop you from playing cards if you want to draw a card. And now, at number 7. So at number 7, we got Thran Tome from Weatherlight. It's a rare, and it's actually on the reserve list, which is making it cost $4.97 currently on the market. It costs 4 colors, like the other tomes in this video, but it costs 5 colors. It says, reveal the top 3 cards of your library to target opponent. Bury one of those cards of that target opponent's draws, draw the remaining cards. So that's really cool. So if you're not too worried, you're drawing 2 cards for 5 colors, which I believe is actually a great ability. So you can keep doing that regardless of what the opponent. I think at that point when you're paying 5 colors, I don't think it matters if the opponent sees your hands or not. This is why this card is really cool, I personally think, because it's really, you're drawing 2 cards for every turn. And now at number 6. And at number 6, we got Tome Scourat, which I think is a very underrated card. It's from various core sets. It's a common, going for roughly 24 cents. Basically, it says target player puts the top 5 cards of his or her library in his or her graveyard. So it's target player, so it can be you or the opponent, depending on what type of cards you have. And the saying goes, I hope none of those were important. Goes some really cool saying with this card. But again, I keep saying this card is underrated in real life and online. This card, I think, is very powerful for that 1 blue mana. But let's move on to number 5. And at number 5, we got Tome of Legends from Throne of Eldraine, and it's a rare going for roughly $6.45 at the current market rate. When it enters the battlefield with a page counter on it. So whenever your commander enters the battlefield or attacks, put a page counter on Tome of Legends. Remove a page counter from Tome of Legends, draw a card. So this card is very cool. I like it. I don't know why it's this expensive, because this card is kind of set into a certain format of Magic. But because of that, this card is really good. This is why it's at number 5. So it's either good or bad because it could be totally useless. So let's move on to number 4. At number 4, we got Fool's Tome from Tempest. It's a rare going for only 30 cents. That's right. I like this card. It's really cool. I like the picture by Julie. It says for 2 colors, tap it, draw a card, use the ability only if you have no cards in your hand. Well, for 4 mana, when you're putting it out, you're gonna, if you're playing even say a Goblin deck and you're pumping everything out of your hands, I think this card is very good. Regardless of being rare for 30 cents, I think this is actually more powerful than what most people would think, because if you're trying to empty your hand and this obviously doesn't get destroyed, you got that extra card ability. So let's move on to number 3, So at number 3, we got Tomb of Guildpact from Ravnica Allegiance, which is a rare, going for roughly about 32 cents. I think this card is actually very underrated in the Magic world. I think it should be worth a lot more than that for 5 colors, which is very, very expensive. But in return, it says whenever you cast a multicolored spell, draw a card and tap it to add 1 mana of any color. Well, with so many cards in the Magic world, I find that almost impossible. You can build a deck just for multicolored. So the drawing cards and adding 1 mana of any color, I think that's a double bonus. I don't know why this card is not played very well, or often, I mean. So let's move on to number 2. At number 2, we got Maze Mind Tome from Core Set 2021, and it's a rare going for roughly $2.36. At the time of this video, this card is part of the current rotation, so once it's kicked out, the value of this card will actually decrease, most likely. So it costs only 2 colors, and it says put a page counter on it, or scry 1. Or for 2, put a counter on it, and then draw a card. When you have 4 more page counters on the tome, exile, if you do, you gain 4 life. So this is just a complete bonus. Scrying and drawing cards, that's really good ability. So even if you don't want to pay for the 2 colors, scrying all the time, rotating cards to the bottom of your library is 100% incredible. Especially if you're playing a control deck, you know what you're getting. But there's always so much. So let's move on to number 1. Well, at number 1, I hope you don't mind the reading. So we got Mangara's Tomb from Mirage, which is a rare, and it's on the reserve list, which is going for $12.34. So this card is number 1, and it's expensive, maybe because it's on the reserve list. So it costs only 5 colors, which is very expensive, but it says when it comes into play, search your library and choose any 5 cards. Shuffle these cards and put them in face down under the tomb. Shuffle your library afterwards. So, any 5 cards. That's really cool. If you lose control, remove all cards from the game. Very risky. But it says, for 2 colors, instead of drawing a card, put the top card from under Magnus into your hand. And again, for 5 colors, you basically get to play, well, for the 2 colors afterwards, basically, I should say, you get to play any card. If this artifact stays in play, you can put any card into your hand. That is an ultimate ability. If they can't destroy that artifact, it's basically game over for whatever combo, anything you want to put. If you want to go with the current state of putting Ugin in, boom, there you go, done. So I hope you guys enjoy the video, and have a good day, and a good evening.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, this is Runes. So today we'll be doing Magic Gathering top 10 tutor cards, and believe it or not, there's quite a few out there. So now, at number 10, we're going to start with a series with Profane Tutor from Modern Horizons 2. It's a rare going for $3.15 on the market. This is quite a unique one because it has Suspend too. So rather than cast this card from your hand, pay 1 colors and 1 swap, exile within 2 time counters on it. So it's kind of like removed from the games, which is really cool. And then search your library for a card, put that card in your hand, and then shuffle. So basically, you're paying 2 with Suspend 2. So it's kind of expensive. This is why it's at number 10, and it is number 10 for all the tutors. So let's move on to number 9, which will be Ristic Tutor from Prophecy. It's a rare going for $2.25 currently at the market. This was actually one of my favorite cards during the Prophecy blocks. I actually played with this card non-stop. Looking back, nowadays it's not that good at all. So it costs 3 mana. It says, unless any player pays 2, search your library for a card, put that card into your hand, then shuffle your library. That could backfire. This is why it's at number 9. But primarily at this point, someone wants to do something by turn 3, so there's a good chance that you can play this tutor without being blocked. So let's move on to number 8, which we have is Infernal Tutor from Dissension or Judge Gift Cards 2020. It's a rare with an average price of $6.54. This card, Infernal Tutor, was very popular during this Dissension block. It says, reveal a card from your hand, search your library for a card with the same name as that card, reveal it and put it into your hand, then shuffle your library. Then it has Hellbent. If you have no cards in hand, instead search your library for a card and put it. So that's kind of like a dual card and only costs 2 mana. So that's really cool and really effective, especially when you want to bring anything to stop that opponent. You can reveal that card and have 2 of them in your hand. So let's move on to number 7, which is actually one of my favorite tutors, and all the tutors in the Magic world is Idyllic Tutor. It's from Theorist Beyond or Secret Lair drops. It's a rare with an average price of $11.65. And I say it's my favorite because, as you guys know, white is my favorite color in the entire. I just like that defense and enchantment thing, which this one costs 3 mana with a typical Tutor costing cost. It says search your library for an enchantment card, reveal it, put it in your hand, then shuffle your library. So it's just like to Tutor for black. This one is white. So let's move on to number 6, which is Mystical Tutor from various sets and various rarity, believe it or not. It's just all over the board, this one. And that costs $25.18 on the market right now to buy one. That's really cool. When it came out in Mirage originally, everyone had this card, and I wish I kept them all. Basically, like any other one, is for only 1 mana, search your library for an instant, interrupt, which don't exist really anymore, mana source, or a sorcery card, and reveal that card to all players. Shuffle your library, put the revealed card back on top of it for only 1 mana and instant. So you can't. This is an amazing card. I should have put it at number 1, maybe. Let's just move right on to number 5. With halfway down our list, we have Worldly Tutor from various sets, starting out as uncommon, but it is now rare with an average price of $27.25. Well, this one is a 1 green mana. It's an instant, and it says search your library for a creature card and reveal that card. Shuffle your library, and then put your card on top of it. So just like the Mystical, this one is, the Worldly. Same thing, but I just chose this one because creatures have more effect, because that's what actually deals more damage than saying an instant or sorcery. So this one actually can get creatures to destroy it, and that's why it's just 1 ahead. So let's move on to number 4, which we have is the exact same card pretty much before, except for a different name. That's it. Now, normally I don't put portal cards in my series, but this one is a Judge gift card from 2020. So therefore, this card was playable in real decks. It's a rare going for $69.78. And again, it does the exact same thing card. It says, search your library for a creature card, reveal that card, and shuffle your library, and then put that card on top of it. So this one is just a Sylvan Tutor. Same thing. The only reason why it's ahead of the other one is while this one has more rarity than the other card, and because it's a Judge gift card, again, the rules did apply that you were able to play that within decks. So let's move on to number 3. That's right, we got an Enlightened Tutor from various sets, starting out as uncommon and going rare now. It is $36.54 with the average cost right now to buy it on the market. Well, this one is, 1 white mana. I'm going to say a lot because I just love this card. I've liked it since Mirage. It's just search your library for an artifact or enchantment card, reveal that card to all players, and put your revealed card back on top of it. So it's like most of the typical tutors that are expensive, is you reveal it, put it on top of your library for 1 mana. And what makes all these cards great is it's an instant. You just can't beat that. And again, because I'm personally a fan of enchantments and artifact with white spells, it does beat the green, blue, and everything else. So let's move on to number 2. We have Demonic Tutor from various sets with being various rarity as well. This one is $42.45 currently on the market. Well, this one is a sorcery, but it says you may search your library for 1 card, take it into your hand, reshuffle your library afterwards. Costs 2 mana. It is a sorcery, but you don't even have to show the card at all. So I think this is more effective because it could be any card that you want for only an extra mana and not showing. So there's not much more to explain. I do like that picture. It's very impressive. So let's move on to number 1. That's right, we got Vampiric Tutor from various sets being rare or mythic, with an average price of $46.87 on the market at the time of this video. Well, basically like all other tutors, it costs 1 mana for this instant. So it's pay 2 life, search your library for 1 card, shuffle your library, and put that card on top of your library. I think this is the most effective card because it says any card and you're not showing it. So I think paying the 2 life is worth the value of this card more than any others. And the picture is very cool. I really like this card. It can be very versatile. And that's about it. But we're going to actually show you one other card just for fun. We're going to just show you a Portal card, which is Personal Tutor from Portal. It's an uncommon going for $88.53 on the market. I had included this as a bonus card just to show you. It's not on the top 10 because it is Portal cards, which we're not allowed to use in the Magic world. So this one's basically search your deck for a sorcery, reveal that card to all players, shuffle your deck, and put the revealed card on top of it. So there's really nothing special about it. It's only really expensive because of its rarity. Not a lot of people kept their Portal cards, so This is why it kind of doesn't exist anymore. And on top of that, it's a sorcery. Nothing too special. But I thought I'd show you this card because it is the most expensive tutor you can possibly buy right now. So I hope you guys have a good day and a good evening. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, this is Runestone. Today we're doing the top 10 Magic the Gathering Valor cards. So let's begin with number 10. At number 10, we got Valor of the Worthy from Kaldheim. It's a common, going for a whopping 2 cents on the market at this time. The reason why it's here, well, it's kind of cool. Valor of the Worthy costs only 1 mana. Enchanted creature gets +1/+1 when it leaves the battlefield. Create a 1/1 white spirit token with flying. So it's not destroy, it says leaves the battlefield, which I think is very impressive. This is why it's made the list, is because that alone is the ability. And there is no equipment, and that is the backside of it. But that's really cool. So let's move on to number 9. At number 9, we got Valor Made Real. Various sets, basically lots of sets. It's a common going for 10 cents. Well, it's a pretty cool picture. And can you say Valor Made Real 10 times fast? Basically, the card is target creature can block any number of target creatures this turn. So this would be very, very helpful if you're playing like a green-white combo deck, because generally green creatures can be like 8/8s, 10/10s, or whatever. So you put that out, block everything, boom, that clears out the system. Anyway, that's why it's at number 9. It's a very cool card. It's costs only 1 for this instance. So let's move on to number 8. And at number 8, we got Valor's Stance, which is from various cents. It's an uncommon going for 15 cents. Yes, it does say Valorous, but it is part of the Valor family, so this is why it's in the top 10. And the reason why here it is at number 8, well, it's actually costs 1 color and a white for this instance, so that's really cool. It's not a sorcery. And then you get 2 choices. You either get indestructible or destroy a creature with 4 or greater. It's simple as that. So that's really good. That's why it's at number 8, because you got the choice and it's an instant. So it's very powerful. So let's move on to number 7. At number 7, we got Furga, Judge of Valor from Kaldheim. It's an uncommon going for 10 cents on the market. This card is actually kind of powerful in the actual standard battles at the time of this video, because it costs, it's 5 mana for a 2/4, but it has Flying Lifelink. And whenever you cast a second spell each turn, look at the top 3 cards of your library, put one of them into your hand and the rest in your graveyard, which is actually kind of a really cool combo, because typically that you would find that in the blue mana. So when you have the Flying Lifelink for 2 to 4, that you can really pump that up. You can really do some damage with it. This is why it's at number 7, because it's not the best Valor card, but it's actually a pretty good card in general. So let's move on to number 6. At number 6, we got Sigil of Valor from Magic Origins. It's an uncommon, going for 15 cents on the market. Actually, for Type 1 in decks, this actually I feel like would be valued more than 15 cents. But anyway, it says, whenever a equipped creature attacks alone, gets +1/+1 until end of turn for each other creature you control. Equip 1. Now, there's a lot of creatures that, especially the new standard, that if they attack alone, they can enter the dungeon alone, and then if you have this attached to it. So it'd be interesting. Maybe I should make a Type 1 deck to see how that goes. This is why it's here at I always say that, number 6. It's a very powerful card if you know how to use it. I like the Valor card. It's pretty cool. Again, it costs 2 mana for that equip one, so it's a really early game if you have a lot of 1/1s in play. Other than that, it's not going to help you in the long run. So let's move halfway down our list to number 5. At number 5, we got Civi's Valor from Nemesis. It's a rare, going for only 26 cents. Back in the day, this was actually one of the most powerful white cards when it came out, believe it or not. So this Valor card says if you control planes, you may tap an untapped creature you control instead of paying its cost, which would be typical if you're playing white with this white card. All damage will be dealt to a target creature this turn is dealt to you instead. Now, with so many combinations, again, as I always say with like so many cards, it could be used very powerful, and it's a very powerful Valor card. But why would you tap the mana when most things would say you can redirect damage or prevent damage for a lot less mana? I don't know why this is a rare, especially nowadays, I guess. This card is not that powerful at all, but it is powerful enough to be at number 5. So let's just move on to number 4. Which we have is Valor in Akros. It's from various sets. It's an uncommon for only going for 7 cents. So it costs 4 mana. At this point, it's not a very powerful card, but at number 4, it can be very if you're doing a lot of haste and melee creatures, because it says when a creature enters the battlefield under your control, creatures you control get +1/+1 until end of turn. It does not say only once per turn or anything. This is, again, reason why it's at number 4 is because it basically can be unlimited. And with 4 mana and melee creatures, you can pump those creatures up really fast. And that's about it. So let's move on to number 3. Next we got is Archon of Valor's Reach from Commander 2020 or Battle Bond. There's a rare going for a whopping 26 cents. These Valor cards are not worth a lot in the real world. 26 cents, wow. But it costs 6 mana for this 5/6. The reason why here is at number 3, well, is the text. It has flying, vigilance, and trample. All right, that's very, very cool. Again, goes with the green-white, and it says, when it enters the battlefield, choose artifact, enchantment, instant, sorcery, or planeswalker. Players can't cast spells of the chosen type. So that's really, really cool. It basically stops them from laying, like a Wrath or any card at all that will hurt you. That's why it's at number 3, is because of those abilities. Even though it's very expensive, at that point you should be almost winning the game practically. So let's move on to number 2. And this is the ironic card, because we're doing the top 10 Valor, is number 2 is Valor. It's from Judgment or Time Spiral Time Shifted. It's an uncommon going for only 18 cents on the market. Well, this kind of was very powerful back in the day as well when Judgment first came out. So it costs 4 mana. It's an incarnation. It costs 2/2. So this is a first strike. So as long as it's in your graveyard and you control the planes, which is pretty obvious if you're playing with this card, creatures you control have first strike. So basically, you put them into play. You want to put them in your graveyard. As long as the opponent doesn't have graveyard removal, you want this card in your graveyard. This is why it's very, very powerful, I believe, because of it giving everything creatures first strike, which can turn the tide in a war. But there's one better card. So let's move on to number 1. I know you guys might not agree with me on this number 1, but we got Valorous Charge from Portal. That's right. Back in the day, Portal was actually able to be used in standard decks. It was a rule that's saying you can, and it's an uncommon going for 19 cents in the market. I think this is cool. Being more powerful is an instant, but it costs 3 mana. It says all white creatures get +2/+0. It has those little symbols in it too, which is really cool until end of turn. But this includes other players' white's creatures, so it can be quite useless, but also very, very powerful. Again, I say this constantly, with the right combination, this Valorous Charge can be very powerful with melee creatures, therefore turning the tide by turn 3, winning the game. So that's about it, and I hope you guys enjoy the video, and I hope you have a good day and a good evening.